So they take the name Cro-Magnon, drop the C, and keep the R and the O, and then they take the M and A and say, that's Ma, I'm Pa, and this is the kettle, Ma and Pa kettle. This is where we're going to make a new stew, and we're going to make a group of people called R-O-M-A, Roma. And we're going to send them. And I'm skipping over a whole bunch of things like making animals, depositing them in Australia and the islands in the Pacific, and testing out to see which would be the best way to go, and then working out the systems using all of the knowledge they gained from looking at the stars, the pattern of activity you want, which is basically the kangaroo, eventually the marsupial, is a good example of the eventual being they want, a single animal that can give birth but be task specific to a job, and a instrument instead of the spear, I had the name on the tip of my tongue, a boomerang, will be symbolic of what they're going to be doing. They will be sending out a team of people who will do things and eventually bring things back. Where they're located in Antarctica at the Kemp Coast is directly facing India, and the area in front of India today we call Sri Lanka. The area of India directly facing Sri Lanka, once you get into India, is called Madras. So the plan basically is to take the Roma and maroon them on Sri Lanka. That's Anka is their anchor, and send the gang Sri out. And these names were not given recently in English by accident. They were to reflect a code that those in the know would then be able to track. And if you have IRS in Sri Lanka and you have Krishna over in India, it's not an accident they both have IRS in it, or that later you find the IRS in Paris, or as the toll gaters of the Western world, the tax collectors. So, to make a long story short, or shorter, a group of people placed on Sri Lanka move to its second position in India, decide that they need other players in their game to do the work, because it's like any bureaucrat. You're given a job in government, the first job you take up is to find somebody to do your job so you can go do the golfing and that kind of stuff, count the money, rather than have to do the physical work. So they decide that these Roma are going to send a group into the mountains, the Himalayas above India, and find the second highest. They like number 2 more than number 1 because number 2 is really number 1. It has all the power. And that's why if you look at a clock and you say, what's the smallest amount of time shown on a normal clock, it's not called the first, but it's called a second because it's giving you the message that number 2 is number 1. So finding the second location in the mountains of the Himalayas, the second highest mountain, we call it K2 today because K1 was where the Cro-Magnon were made, which is Mount Kilimanjaro. It has 3 peaks, 2 in Tanzania, 1 in Kenya, and it has Mount Meru over on the side where the genetic engineering gang lived and acted basically like the managers of the events. But this group they make is going to be sent east. And they're basically called Asians. And later on, they'll make a second group, Red Asians, which they call Persians. They're called red because they've been marooned. Native people called themselves red men without quite understanding what it was. We laughed when we were kids and said that people came from Europe to America looking for India. But in fact, that's what they were doing. They were looking for the Indians who lived in America, having been marooned here as red men, and to tell them where their journey started from, they had Turkey, because Turkey is the middle point between Asia and Europe. In any event, Asians were sent down through Malaysia, Burma, Java, the islands, and Japan, China, Korea, North and South, Vietnam. If you look at the word Korea and the word Iraq, the letters are basically backwards. The phonetic sounds are backwards. Iraq, Korea. Iraq, Korea. In French, the word Korea is Kori. So it's Iraq backwards. Taiwan is Tao, man. The M as a W can be flipped over in a code. I, O, U are 3 letters linked together, so therefore the I can be an O or it can be a U, and if it's T-A-I, it can also be T-A-U, which makes it Tao, man. And the Tao cross is the cross that has a circle around it. It means you start here, you go and you do all of this, and you come back here. And if you look at Catholic prayer beads, these beads have a cross, and it has an ecclesiastic bead, P bead, to signify the monk or the priest or rabbi, and then it has 3 of the slaves, 3 of the ordinary people, followed by another P bead, and then it begins a series of 10 groups of 10 P beads accentuated in the middle of each 10, five different groups with the beat at which you say, Our Father.